Today on the blockchain report, Bitcoin's down to 119K, which is down from the record-smashing 124K we saw yesterday because nothing says healthy market like a $5,000 mood swing in 24 hours. Steak and Shake is eating McDonald's lunch thanks to Bitcoin payments and deep-fried patriotism. ChatGPT-5 predicts Bitcoin will end the year at 175K because apparently even AI has laser eyes now, and Trump's speed-running pro-crypto policy so fast grandma can put Bitcoin in her 401k. All that and more right now. Let's go. Good morning, my crypto contrarians, and welcome back to your daily roller coaster ride through Bitcoin bliss right here on the Blockchain Report. I'm your host, Hank Hudson, broadcasting live from the Bay Area, where the phrase "I'm in stealth mode" is just code for I have no product and I'm burning through all of our angel money. Yep, it is Thursday. It's beautiful. It's sunny here in the SF area. And before we belly flop into today's crypto circus, let's show a little respect, shall we? And hit that like button like you're rage checking or rage clicking refresh during a Bitcoin price pump. And follow RoxomTV and yours truly at Hank at RoxomTV, because we deliver signal, memes, and market madness, all without charging you a gas fee. So hit those buttons. Oh, and what's that, guys? We got some breaking news on the horizon, so we better get to it. Let's roll the stinger, and let's go.
Also started to get into the 21st century, a Bitcoin strategic reserve. We're not going to be buying that, but we are going to use confiscated assets and continue to build that up. We're going to stop selling that. I believe that Bitcoin reserve at today's prices is somewhere between 15 and 20 billion.
Well, that was U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who looks like he's talking into the sun, and he just pulled back the curtain on Donald Trump's Bitcoin reserve plans. Speaking on Mornings with Maria, Bessent said the administration isn't going to buy Bitcoin for the reserve at all. Instead, they're going to stock it with confiscated assets, basically turning seized coins from hacks, scams, and bad actors into America's own digital Fort Knox. And here's the big one. The U.S. is going to stop selling its Bitcoin. Bessent pegs that stash at today's prices between $15 and $20 billion, or roughly 126 to 168,000 BTC, which means the United States just became one of the largest Bitcoin whales on the planet without having to lift a single Satoshi off of Coinbase. Gold will still be treated as a store of value for the American people, Bessent added, presumably so nobody in D.C. has a heart attack at the thought of replacing Fort Knox with a hardware wallet. Maria also asked Bessent about recent comments he made about the current federal interest rates. Let's roll the clip.
Mr. Secretary, I've got to ask you about the Federal Reserve because you're calling on the Fed to start cutting interest rates. You suggested the other day that the benchmark should be at least 1.5 points lower than it is right now. Fox Business has been reporting that you're leading the interviews with the potential Fed chair candidates. But we just had Jason Trennert on a moment ago, and I know he's a friend of yours, and he came close to working with you at the Treasury. But even he, being a supporter of yours, raised a red flag about the sitting Treasury Secretary telling the Federal Reserve that they need to be cutting rates by a full 1.5 points. Do you find this unusual, that you find yourself in a position of telling the Fed what to do?
Couple of things, Maria. I didn't tell the Fed what to do. What I said was that to get to a neutral rate on interest, that would be approximately a 150 basis point cut. I did not call for them to get there. The other thing that I said was that perhaps because they had bad BLS data in June and July, that perhaps a 50 basis point cut in September was warranted.
Yeah, and do you believe that at this point we are ready to see a half-point cut, given the fact that they've been so late in terms of doing 25 basis point cuts all this time?
Well, crawl, walk, run. Perhaps they'll start with 25 and then accelerate. I can tell you that based on the 50 basis point cut in the September of 2024, right before the election, that the conditions now they are slightly more favorable for a cut. But again, I believe that there is room, if one believes in the neutral rate and where it is, that there is room for a series of rate cuts. And again, I'm not calling for one. I didn't call for one. I just said that a model of a neutral rate is approximately 150 basis points lower.
All right, we're back with this morning's market rundown. We apologize about that break in coverage here. We've had this bird running havoc in our studio. It had a knife to our intern Rockin' Robbie's neck, but we got it all under control. So we're back. All right, let's see how the markets are moving this morning in response to that news and Bitcoin's all-time highs yesterday. Well, right now, we have seen a pretty considerable drawback in just the last 12 to 24 hours. Bitcoin reached new all-time highs yesterday of 124. We're all the way back down to about 118.7 right now, so that's over a 3.5% drop. But in the world of Bitcoin, great news can be happening all around, and then it does the exact opposite of what you would expect. So par for the course. Ethereum sitting around 4,700 currently, not as impacted by that down drop as we saw from Bitcoin. So Vitalik is doing okay. XRP down nearly 5% to about 312 this AM. Cardano is up nearly 2.5% to about 92.93 cents a coin. And Dogecoin sitting right beneath that 23 cents level. In the stonk market, a lot of red, but it's not too bad this morning. The Dow Jones is down a negligible about 0.25%, currently at about 44,800. The NASDAQ composite sitting pretty level at about 21,710. The S&P down 4 this morning, nothing really going on there. MicroStrategy, as we know, it goes where Bitcoin goes, and as such, it is down over 4% this morning to 373 a share. Tesla down about 2.5 this morning. Coinbase is down about $3. Nvidia sitting at 182, and GameStop doing what it does, which is nothing, right around 22.5 per share. All right, we got a lot to cover this morning, so let's get back to camera one and get going with our bull run. Let's do it. Oh, we're here. Okay, we're even running the stinger. All good. Okay, so first story of the day, well, Bitcoin hit a record-smashing all-time high of 124K yesterday. The fuel behind this rally, well, it was a heady cocktail of the Fed might actually cut rates, institutional money is here in size, and the Trump administration is speedrunning every pro-crypto policy you can possibly think of. And Trump's leaning into the whole crypto president brand harder than an influencer selling protein powder, even roping his family into sector activities over the past year. One of the biggest moves, last week's executive order paving the way for Bitcoin and other crypto assets to be included in 401k retirement plans. That's right, your MEMA can now stack sats next to her mutual funds. 2025 has also seen stablecoin regulations get the green light and the SEC quietly reworking rules to better accommodate the entire crypto asset class. Add a weaker dollar into the mix, it's lost ground against the euro and the pound, and Bitcoin starts to look even shinier to anyone tired of shrinking yields. Now, analysts say if Bitcoin can punch through 125 to 150, then we're not too far off even more all-time highs, and the models certainly agree. The Bitcoin Intelligence Report projects a year-end target between 150 to 200K with the possibility of 1.2 million to 1.5 million by 2035, and that's without assuming some wild speculative mania. Their power law model has tracked Bitcoin with some freakish accuracy for for the past 16 years. And right now, it says the accumulation zone is between 114 and 117K, and it's pretty rock solid. So that's triggering the current push we've seen as of late. Now, Bitwise CIO Matthew Hogan says the supply-demand balance is now so skewed toward demand that sellers at 100K eventually gave up, making $200,000 the next logical stop. Now, logical in Bitcoin terms, of course, where logical also includes million-dollar price targets. For now, resistance sits just above 130K, but the fundamentals say the real game is only just beginning. Bitcoin, the cleanest barometer of global liquidity, the original liquidity sponge, if you will, and still the hardest money in the room, is certainly having a moment. And if the macro stars stay aligned, it's going to be a long one, hopefully. All right, we got us joining us today is my good friend from Xapo Bank, Joe Epple. Let's bring him on in. Joe, how are you this Thursday? Great to have you back on the show.
Hank, I'm doing fantastically today. How are you doing? Great to be back.
Oh, I am also doing fantastically. I was doing a little more fantastically about 12 hours ago, but hey, we reached all-time highs. We've seen a bit of a drawback. I can't complain. We've had a lot of movement, as I mentioned, in the last 24 hours, partly because the U.S. government suddenly outed itself as one of the biggest Bitcoin whales alive. Bitcoin blasted to 124, Trump went full speed crypto president, and the Bitcoin tripped over its own shoelaces back to 118K. Is this the start of a monster bull run, or just Bitcoin doing its usual don't get cocky routine and then doing the exact opposite of what we'd expect? What do you think?
Oh man, good old Bitcoin and trying to predict its next move. I think, look, I think the United States coming out is more or less saying that the S in USA is for Satoshis is definitely not going to be a bad thing for the market, especially as we've seen over the last couple of days. Markets seem to be betting on an interest rate cut coming out of the Fed, and a little bit more interest on risk on assets seems to be happening from my basic understanding of financial markets, and that seems to be pushing Bitcoin up along with everything else. So I do think if that trend holds, right, we're going to continue to see Bitcoin climb, and we're certainly very bullish and continue to see this as not the end of the bull market. I think we're still very much within it, and still some road left for this bull to run.
Yeah, no, I certainly would seem to agree, but I got to ask, what do you think was the cause for us hitting those new all-time highs and then dropping back almost immediately in like 12 hours, $5,000 or $6,000? Do you think it was some profit taking? People are still taking off some of that foam from the top and putting it into hot girl altcoin summer? Or do you think maybe it's people were expecting Bessent to come out and say we were going to actively start acquiring Bitcoin in the USA? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And look, I think if we all knew why the market moved the way it does, then we'd probably be on our private islands. But I think we can suppose that every time Bitcoin hits an all-time high, I think a little bit of both of those things happen. So some people want to take their profit, and that obviously leads to a bit of a market correction. But at the same time, I think people like the Bitcoin maxis of the world and the people who are kind of penciling in that $1 million price point, when things happen that are good things, but they aren't extraordinarily good things, and here I'm talking about like the United States saying it's got, give or take $20 to $50 billion worth of Bitcoin on its books, that's pretty fantastic. And if people were expecting the US to say we're going to be, basically following the strategy playbook and buying a couple thousand coins every month, that's probably a little bit naive to assume that the states would be taking such an aggressive policy at this point. So perhaps people who are overexcited saw this as a kind of a bearish indicator. But in all honesty, I see nothing but positive signals. Bitcoin goes in, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We're sitting on, what is it right this second? 118,000. If you told me that 6 months ago, would I have believed you? Maybe not. So let's see. I think it's just normal profit taking and people getting too excited, a little bit scared, retracing a bit, but nothing to be too concerned about.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm going to have to say, though, I'm going to color myself a little disappointingly naive. I was hoping we'd come out and say we were going to start stacking, but as we know, government always rolls at a snail's pace, so that was probably a little overly optimistic on my part. But you're right. If we had asked for 118K 6 months ago, I would have taken it in a heartbeat. So I think the momentum is still very much on course, and we're very much on track. All right, we got a lot to talk about today, Joe, so I'm going to go over this next story. We're going to bring you right back and chat about it. All right?
Perfect.
All right, let's do it. Okay, Norway's sovereign wealth fund, the largest in the world, now has indirect Bitcoin exposure worth $844 million. That's 7,161 BTC, which is impressive considering they probably still call it the Bitcoin. Now, that's a 192% increase from last year, which means either they've suddenly become closet maxis or they've stumbled into the best oops in finance history. And no, they didn't log into Coinbase and start rage buying. This is the byproduct of owning shares in companies that hoard Bitcoin like boomers hoard Tupperware lids. Now, the biggest enablers, Strategy and Marathon Digital. Together, these two control over 3% of Bitcoin's total supply. That's more than $81 billion worth. A researcher at K33 says this all proves Bitcoin is finding its way into any well-diversified portfolio, intentional or not, which is analyst speak for you can't stop it. All right, we're bringing Joe back. Joe, Norway's sovereign wealth fund just accidentally ended up with almost $1 billion in Bitcoin. Do you think this is the future? Countries becoming closet maxis without even realizing it?
I love the term closet maxi. I think that's going to go on the the Bitcoin terminology list pretty soon. Look, I mean, I think this is the net result of Bitcoin treasury companies, right? Companies that are putting large parts of their balance sheet or some of their balance sheet into Bitcoin, and companies the size of Strategy, which are S&P 500 companies, are going to make their way soon into everyone's portfolio, whether you realize it or not. Your mom could end up being a closet maxi and never know it her whole life. And when it comes to Norway, I mean, the Norwegians have the astronomically successful sovereign wealth fund that is the envy of everyone who's not a Norwegian. And to know that they have stacked sats closetly or in a very open way, either way, the net result is the same thing. The biggest sovereign wealth fund in the world is stacking sats, and that's incredible. So I think we'll see more of this start to happen. I think what you mentioned earlier about President Trump signing the executive order or the whichever piece of legislation it was, allowing 401ks to stack sats at the same time, we're going to start seeing people who don't even know that this is happening, who can take a look at their investment portfolio and understand exactly what every single share means you're actually investing within. And that is only going to fuel demand for a very, very low volume cap supply asset, which probably means that price is going to climb. Not financial advice, but that is what the trend seems to be showing us. So long may it continue, and I definitely don't think this is the last we're going to see.
Yeah, I mean, their Bitcoin exposure jumped 192% in a year without a single direct buy. Do you think that this is proof that Bitcoin is basically sneaking into every serious portfolio, whether they like it or not? We're seeing it here. We're seeing it in 401ks. It seems to be the unstoppable tide of Bitcoin, right?
Absolutely. And I think the fact that it's there without you even knowing it's there goes to show how integrated Bitcoin can become with the existing financial system, as well as operate entirely on its own outside of it. And that's just one of the most magical things about Bitcoin. As a bank that's existed to merge the worlds of traditional finance and the new Bitcoin world, this is something Xapo has been enabling and seeing for quite some time now, where people maybe want to be able to merge those worlds consciously and have their Bitcoin sitting in the same bank account as their US dollars, or at the same time are more comfortable investing through a proxy like an ETF, or not even really necessarily realizing it's there. And all of these things, I think, really just speak to the resilience and the innovation behind a currency that can be incorporated into traditional financial instruments, or simply be bought and sold directly. And either way, you're making what is likely a pretty solid investment.
Yeah, I mean, in between Norway, we got big corporations and random mobility apps are buying Bitcoin. Are we officially at the point in Bitcoin's history where not holding BTC makes you the guy unknowingly wearing the dunce cap in the corner of the room? Is that where we're getting right now? Are we reached that point yet?
I mean, it depends. I think the real giveaway will be what happens around the Thanksgiving table in the States in a couple months' time. How many questions about the magic internet money you get. But in all seriousness, I do believe that we are kind of passing a bit of a tipping point here. If you had told me, when I first started in this industry in 2016, that in less than a decade we would have the United States talking about its Bitcoin balance, we would have 401ks with Bitcoin exposure, and Bitcoin would be trading at a north of 120K on occasion. We would all say that is super duper crazy talk. So where we are today, if we've made this much progress in 10 years, I think it's going to be pretty wild to see how it unfolds. And I do think, if you think 120 is a high entry point, or 118, in a couple of years' time, it might seem super cheap. So for sure, why not get a little bit of that exposure? It could just be buying Apple shares early back in the day.
Yeah, no, I can't wait for Thanksgiving this year when I presumably ruin another family dinner by telling everyone I told you so once Bitcoin inevitably comes up again. It's one of my favorite holiday pastimes at this point. So I'm excited for that. All right, stay tuned, Joe. We're going to bring you right back because I want to talk about this next story with you in just a sec, because Steak and Shake just had another monster quarter and they're giving Bitcoin the credit. The burger chain started accepting BTC in stores across multiple countries in mid-May, and apparently that was enough to flip the script on their biggest rivals. In Q2 of 2025, their in-store sales jumped nearly 11%. Meanwhile, McDonald's, Domino's, and Taco Bell were busy posting slow growth or outright declines. Or in other words, while Ronald McDonald was losing customers, Steak and Shake was stacking sats and burger sales. Now, let's be clear here for a second, though. The idea that Bitcoin is solely responsible might be a little convenient because the BTC miracle kicked in halfway through the quarter, and there were other moves at play, like back in March when Steak and Shake aligned itself with the Trump administration and RFK Jr.'s Make America Healthy Again initiative by frying food in beef tallow instead of vegetable oil. Because apparently nothing says health like deep fried
You are fake news,
baby. Hey! Now, they also had the good fortune of McDonald's dealing with international boycotts, which tends to help when you're in the same business. But don't expect Steak and Shake to dwell on those details. From their perspective, Bitcoin is the golden ticket, even if the real picture is more complicated than that. They're already talking about Lightning Network payments to speed up transactions, which means your double steak burger and fries could arrive before your transaction even confirms. And in a fast food market where crypto payments have mostly become marketing stunts, Steak and Shake's actually seeing measurable results. Now, whether Bitcoin is truly the hero here or just the mascot for a perfectly timed marketing and political play, one thing's for sure. They're sticking with crypto, which means somewhere out there a kid is paying for a milkshake with sats and McDonald's is still wondering where it all went wrong. All right, we're back. Sorry again about the interference this morning, but now it's time for some AIO. So we're going to figure out what those robot overlords of ours are doing with our interwebs, because they're not doing a great job today, but that's okay. We're going to move on here. All right, first up, to get a sneak peek into the future, someone asked ChatGPT-5 where Bitcoin will be at the end of 2025. The current price is currently hovering around 119K. ChatGPT is saying base case 140 to 200,000, assuming that institutions keep buying and the macro picture doesn't implode. That would be an 18 to 69% gain in less than 5 months. More bullish scenarios, aggressive institutional and retail buying could bring us to 200 to 250K. That would say 69 to 112% gain, also known as laser eye Twitter melting down in real time. And the super bullish macro shift beats unprecedented adoption scenario over 250K. Even the conservative case keeps Bitcoin between 118 to 140,000. So worst case scenario, you're still likely winning. Now, when asked for a single number, ChatGPT-5 spit out $175,000 for December 31st of 2025. So get ready to mark your calendars, baby. We're bringing in the new year the right way. And the way things are going currently, that price target's not totally crazy talk. August 11th, Strategy bought another 155 Bitcoin for about 18 million bucks. Nakamoto Inc. announced a $762 million buy. Spot BTC ETF inflows passed $150 billion last week. Bitcoin's 90-day correlation with the Nasdaq is 0.72, meaning macro still matters, but the altcoin season index is down to 31, showing money is rotating back into good old Bitcoin. So if the AI is right, the last day of 2025 is going to feel less like New Year's Eve and more like Michael Saylor's personal victory parade. Personally, I can't wait. Seems like a great way to break in the new year. And Geoffrey Hinton, aka the godfather of AI, is back with another dose of try sleeping after this news. The British-Canadian cognitive psychologist and computer scientist, best known for helping invent the very tech now threatening to outthink us, says machines could soon surpass human intelligence. And by soon, he no longer means 30 to 50 years from now like he used to. He's talking in just a few years. Speaking at the AI4 conference in Las Vegas, Hinton said, "We're creeping toward artificial general intelligence, AGI, the type of AI that can match or exceed human capabilities in pretty much everything, except remembering where you left your keys, of course. We're not there yet, but give it time. They're going to be much smarter than us," he warned. And to illustrate, he offered this mental image. So close your eyes here for a second with me. Imagine you're in charge of a playground full of 3-year-olds, except they're smarter than you, and you work for them. How long do you think you'd stay in charge before we're being sent to do timeout corners? The scary part, well, AI's secret weapon is that it can learn collectively. Humans share information at a snail's pace, a few bits per second. AI can share trillion bits in just a single update. Hinton put it like this: if people could do that, you'd take one college course, your friends would take different ones, and instantly you'd all know everything everyone else learned. Except instead of finals week, you just hit refresh. Hinton's solution: stop obsessing over control and start making AI care about us. Literally. He's calling for maternal instincts to be built into advanced systems, an actual drive to protect human life. His pitch: we need loving parents rather than AI assistants. You can fire an assistant, you can't fire your mother, thankfully. In other words, he wants us to raise our AI like a loving parent, not just program it like a soulless corporate intern. Whether the world's governments will all come together to create the digital equivalent of a doting mom instead of Skynet, yeah, well, history's track record on global cooperation isn't exactly promising, so I'm not holding my breath anytime soon. And here's some news: we're all going to be replaced by robots soon, like Hinton said, and it might be a lot sooner than we think. Mo Gaudat, the former Google executive who probably knows more about AI than most of us know about, well, anything, has dropped the mother of all truth bombs about the future of humanity. According to Gaudat, by 2027, artificial general intelligence, AGI, for those who love acronyms, will be here, and when it arrives, it's not just going to help you with your work. No, it'll do your work. All of it. From your job as a podcaster to your role as a software engineer. Yep, goodbye code monkeys. And let's not forget the most thrilling of all, CEO jobs. That's right. The bots are coming for your corner office too. Now, for those of you thinking, well, that doesn't sound so bad, maybe I'll get more free time, think again. Gaudat is predicting that this brave new world is going to be short-term dystopia. You know, a little job loss here and there, a smidge of social unrest, and a little redistribution of power to get rid of the middle class. Because why not, right? You're either in the top 0.1% or you're a peasant. It's as simple as that. Welcome to the future. But wait, there is a silver lining to all of this dystopian gloom and doom. According to Gaudat, in this shiny new world, there will be free healthcare no jobs, and more time with loved ones. It'll be like one big happy commune. A place where everyone is equal except for the people who own the robots, of course. So hey, maybe not all hope is lost. You could be out of a job, but at least you won't have to pay for your doctor's visit. Gaudet's vision sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, right? But here's the thing, he's not alone in thinking this. Demi Hassabis, the head of Google's DeepMind, believes AGI could bring us into an age of radical abundance, where everything is abundant, including prosperity. In theory, AGI could solve global problems like nuclear fusion and material innovation. I mean, imagine a world where AI makes us all richer and healthier, except when we start thinking about how many times AI has already messed things up for us. But Gaudet's argument isn't totally crazy. AGI could change the world as we know it, just not exactly the way that we're imagining. So what's the takeaway for Bitcoin holders? Well, in an era where the government and AI control everything, at least your Bitcoin is decentralized and can't be outsourced to some machine running on code. While AI might steal your job, your Bitcoin won't be taken away by a robot unless it learns how to hack, which, let's be real, that's probably coming soon too. Oof. And artificial intelligence is creating new billionaires at the speed that it makes the last two tech booms look like practice rounds. And by minting billionaires, I don't mean metaphorically. I mean actual billionaires. We're talking dozens of them, spawning this year alone thanks to fundraising rounds that sound less like Series A's and more like GDP numbers. We're talking Anthropic, Safe Superintelligence, OpenAI, Anysphere, and about 494 other AI unicorns, all worth a combined $2.7 trillion. 100 of them didn't even exist 2 years ago. Apparently, all you need to become a billionaire in 2025 is a neural network, a pitch deck, and the ability to say transformative in an interview without laughing. Even the founders are barely keeping up with their own net worth. Mira Murati leaves OpenAI in September and starts Thinking Machines Lab in February, raises $2 billion by July in the largest seed round in history, and boom, $12 billion valuation. Anthropic is negotiating a $170 billion valuation, nearly triple what it was worth in March, making its 7 founders multi-billionaires. Michael Truhl of Anysphere, he's 25 years old, already a billionaire. At 25, most people are still figuring out how to make rent without calling their parents. But here's the catch. Most of this wealth is still locked up in private companies. Back in the dot-com era, everyone went public fast, crashed out, and bought a Ferrari. Now, thanks to endless venture funding from VCs, sovereign wealth funds, and family offices, these companies can stay private longer than snitching hermit crab in witness protection. Liquidity is trickling in through secondary sales, tender offers, and acquisitions. Meta threw $14.3 billion at Scale AI, and co-founder Lucy Guo promptly bought a $30 million mansion in the Hollywood Hills, because nothing says machine learning quite like an infinity pool. The Bay Area is unsurprisingly hoarding the most of this AI gold rush. San Francisco now has more billionaires than New York, 82 to New York 66, and more $20 million plus home sales than any year in history. Remember when everyone said San Francisco was in a doom loop? Well, it turns out the loop now prints money. Wealth managers naturally are circling these AI founders like sharks at a startup pitch competition. Private banks, boutique firms, and family offices all want a piece of the action. But here's the problem. Most of this wealth is illiquid. It's one thing to be worth $3 billion on paper, but it's another to pay your property tax bill without selling a share. And just like the dot-com millionaires, the AI nouveau rich will probably learn the hard way about diversification, risk, and the joys of hiring someone to stop them from investing all their money into their friend's startup, revolutionizing cloud-based sandwich delivery. Eventually, they'll turn to traditional wealth managers, probably after a spectacular flop or two, because while AI can write your will, it still can't sit across from your kids and explain why they're only getting 3% of the estate. And when that day comes, Silicon Valley might just disrupt wealth management the same way it's disrupting everything else. Because if there's one thing billionaires love more than making money, it's thinking they can reinvent how it's managed. We're taking a break, but when we're back, more blockchain report, as we'll be joined by Mr. Big Beat himself, Stephen Orr, from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. You won't want to miss his take, so stay tuned. We'll be back in just a sec.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
All right, we're back with Market Check with Mr. Big Beat himself, Stephen Orr, at the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Stephen, how are you this Thursday, and what brings you to the NYSE?
I mean, Hank, look, the world still moves and the world revolves around New York City, and here we are. But as we expand, right, the world of crypto expands that world to every part of the world. So, when you look at crypto and this nice little sell-off, this buying opportunity, you got to be here, right? You got to see why, because when the big boys are playing, as we talked about it earlier, I want to know what they're doing. So here I am at the New York Stock Exchange. Love it here. This is a great place to be as well. And I'm glad to be on the blockchain report with Hank himself.
Well, we're certainly happy to have you here this morning, Stephen, because we got a lot to talk about. A lot of big movements here in just the last 12 or so hours. We saw Bitcoin reach new all-time highs of around 124 and then crater back down to as low as I think it was the high 117s. What's your take as to what's going on there? Is that profit taking, whale games, something else? What do you think?
Yeah, look, we're all chasing the highs. We all got to see where the market can push. And we have to see one thing, right? And that one thing is liquidity. When I'm looking at the markets, where is liquidity? Where are those buy zones and where are those sell zones? And when you see the market taking them straight up like a rocket ship, which we love, you got to take the profit off. We call it stacking sats, right? So when you see the market run up like that, like it did a couple of weeks ago, it did it again last week. Guess what I was doing? I sold. I didn't sell everything. I sold about 10%. I posted it on my own social media. I sold 10%. And then when it came back down, right back up it went. And I got more Bitcoin. And it did it again last night. And guess what? At 124, I was taking profit. And guess what I did this morning? Bought it back. Right? I like this. I like this. This is why we call it trading. When we look at trading in general, there's two things that has to happen, right? It's the path of least resistance, and it's where the money is. So if we know that all that money and all those people that are in the profit are at the top, great, let's get out. We'll get back in when it's mispricing and pricing, as I always say. So the mispricing and pricing to me, when it got to 124, I thought there was a chase to 125, and that chase to 125 got a little frothy for me. Look, we're going to 150. We're going to Tom Lee's numbers of 250,000. But when do we do that, right? I don't care. I'm going to watch the market. I'm going to use my charts. We show the budget, right? So when I saw this back this morning, I took advantage of it, and I'm still taking advantage. I'm still buying this morning, right? So this is the kind of love that I absolutely love. I love this move. So yeah, here we are.
Yeah, it sounds like all those tools you have over at Quasar are certainly serving you in your trading endeavors well, at least with the most recent price action. We also got some really big news this morning from U.S. Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent coming out and saying the United States holds between $15 and $20 billion worth of BTC, but they won't be actively acquiring it. Was that a surprise to you at all? Were you expecting them to say they were going to start buying it from actual funds in the government, or were you not surprised by that news?
No, not at all. You tell me Scott Bessent, who worked on Wall Street, isn't accumulating Bitcoin. I don't care. I think the narrative is wrong in a lot of ways, right? The narratives, we continue to price Bitcoin in fiat, as in yen or dollars. One Bitcoin, Hank, is still one Bitcoin, right? I'm looking for when the world changes over to we're just using Bitcoin, Satoshis. I don't care. I'm looking forward to the day when I go in a restaurant or go buy things and I see it priced in Satoshis. I cannot wait. That's going to be the day we live. That's not here yet. Fine. Right? Yes, I can use my credit cards. Yes, I can buy things with Bitcoin and with a pass-through. But there's going to be something else here when we actually do this. So I'm excited about that. People need to stop thinking about Bitcoin in US dollars. I do because of the fiat side of it, because I am old school. But I also thought Satoshis only, right? And that's what I love. So people need to stop thinking about Bitcoin as in dollars or yen or euros or pounds. Think of it like Satoshis.
Yeah. And as someone who's hearing the whispers on the floor of the stock exchange themselves and turns those whispers into those big beats, what's the sentiment like for you, or what are you feeling in traditional finance right now in terms of Bitcoin's acceptance into the monetary system? Is it feeling bullish right now, or is there still a little apprehension there on the ground floor of TradFi?
Oh, that's a good question. Listen, a little bit of both, to be honest with you. There's still people that are upset and pissed off that they did not actually get into crypto like we did at the beginning. I heard that this morning when someone came back, gave me a big hug on the floor here and said, man, you bought your first at 75. I'm still, gosh, I wish I had done that. Oh, wait, did you buy it at 1,000? Did you buy it at 10,000? Did you buy it at 20,000 or 100,000? No? Okay. Yes, they did. They bought it at 50,000, but they look back and say, oh, I wish I had bought more. That's not the key, right? It doesn't matter where you buy it because now the price is here at 118, right? But we are still going to go higher. So what does it matter where you buy it now? But when you look at TradFi, they're still very, very interested in what we are thinking. How are we going to implement this into blockchains? How are we going to implement this into other things that are going on? And to me, quite frankly, it's very simple. When you have the old school, and not just even New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ or the exchanges, but the Oval Office is talking about crypto in a positive way. So if they're talking about crypto in a positive Bitcoin, even you had this morning talking about it, you've had Basent talking about it. Tell me the last time in the White House was talking about Bitcoin like this? Never. So that the TradFi side of things down here, they're listening to what Trump and team are saying. They want to know. And if they're buying it, guess what? So are we. So when you look at the number one buyers right now of Bitcoin, it is TradFi. It's ETFs. It's institutional buying. So there you go, right? I'm telling you right now, when you're looking at this account and you're looking at what do I want to do next, they're not saying, I can't wait to go find a stock out there that's been beaten up, because there's not many, right? The alpha in the stock market is completely gone. If I told you that the GDP of the United States compared to the stock market in 2008, before the crash, was roughly 14%, meaning that the stock market was overvalued by about 14% over GDP. What if I told you today that the stock market is 211% overvalued from the GDP? Would that scare you? So if it does, you should be buying digital gold, which is Bitcoin. So all of these things, I don't care, right? I don't care if the price goes to 125, 2,000, 200,000. I know that in the future, the chart only goes one way, from bottom left to top right. And we're going to keep going. And I think that's what you're seeing down here on the floors. They're saying, look, we know that, and we're in for long term. We wish we'd got in before. Sorry, Charlie. But guess what? You have a chance now. Look, you had a run up to 124,000. Yet the other day it was a run up to 121, so now it's at 118. So you're getting a win on both sides of this. And every time I see a dip, it's BTFD. I mean, put it out there, baby. Let's do it. I mean, you've got to buy these dips, because if you don't, you're not. What are you going to do? You're going to wait till we're at 200,000, and that's when you're going to make mistakes.
Right. I mean, it makes me wonder, how long can people who are still on the traditional side of finance lament not buying in sooner? Because at the end of the day, just like the old Chris Tucker, Charlie Sheen movie, money talks, baby, and people go where the money is. How much longer can traditional finance continue to ignore Bitcoin because they didn't buy in soon enough, when we all see where it's headed?
You know what? They didn't ignore Tom Lee when they said Ethereum, right? Ethereum ran from about 3,500. Look at that. Look where it's at now, right? Even with this drop. And they listened to Tom Lee, and Tom Lee's an institution down here. So even with the talking heads talking about it, they're not concerned, right? Look, I get it. I talked about that this morning on Schwab TV. I said, look, I get it. You're all looking at the TradFi side, looking at inflation. They're looking at these hot PPI numbers, these CPI numbers. We know they're hot. It's okay. Inflations are going to go up. I think you're here behind me. There's a new IPO today. You can hear that, right? And you know what? I'm okay with it. That's exactly what's happening. So yeah, you're hearing it live now from behind me. You can hear the new IPO. You want to talk about TradFi and what's going on? This is a great time in the world. The fact that we had so many successful IPOs going on, that should tell you just how happy everybody is. So don't worry about the blips in the market. right? Worry about your entries and your exits. Worry about how you are going to introduce Bitcoin to the world. How are we going to educate them? And it's a great place to do it right here on RoxomTV. This is what I'm talking about, right? Is the education. I was listening to Carolyn Woods earlier today, and she was like, well, how do we educate them, Steve? I said, I got the question the other day. Someone says, see, Bitcoin's at 120. I can't afford to 120,000. Well, you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. And that's the education side that I've been talking about, right? That we need to educate them. That's bits of coins, right? The Satoshis I've been talking about. When more people begin to understand, you're going to see more grandma and grandpas buying Bitcoin, and not just for Uncle Johnny's kids and nephews. You're going to see it actually being in their own IRAs. I mean, that's crazy, Hank, that the president of the United States opened up IRAs, individual retirement accounts, and said you can now put digital coins in your IRAs. Like, if you don't know this, you can trade IRAs. Some IRAs are tax-free. So they're going to get tax-free trading. My goodness, I would love to have that, right? But the truth of the matter is, look, a month ago, we weren't at 118. We weren't at 124, right? So where do we stop this thing? And I don't think we stop until 150. 150,000 is where I'm looking at the U.S. dollar side of things. You've also got, and I think you actually asked me earlier, Hank, about who's selling in all of this. Well, look, everybody. Right. And that's what's happening. Right. You're seeing whales starting to play their, as you said earlier, whales games. You're also talking about it from the perspective of everybody's got profit, including myself. So why not take a little bit off? There's nothing wrong with that. And repack it back up. And guess what? Stack your sats. So continue to stack sats. This is a great way of doing it without putting more money cash into the market. Right. This is a great way. The other thing is, I think when you're looking at these pullbacks, look at them from a technical standpoint here. The 118 handle here is right where the tops were a month ago. So those tops are becoming our bottoms now. So I like this. This is a great place to invest, I think. I don't normally tell people to when to buy and sell, but I love this. I love this time. This is great. I'm happy. I got more Bitcoin than I had 2 days ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great time for sure if you're paying attention to what is going on in the market. And like you said, unit bias is a very real thing right now. But once my Mima is able to get a little bit of Bitcoin in her own 401k and she starts seeing the gains that she'll be getting compared to the rest of her portfolio, it's only a matter of time till the entire world is orange pilled. Right now, though, we're sitting just below 118K. You're saying, like Tom Lee has also stated, we could see 150 very, very possibly this year. What are you looking for as the next catalyst for that next leg up? Is it rate cuts? Is it something else?
No, the next catalyst is when people get excited again. The FOMO. That's what we're seeing right now, right? The catalyst, I think a lot of people are seeing is we got to see inflation start to abate a bit. Because I think a lot of this has to do with whether or not the Fed's going to cut and how much they're going to cut. Look, they're going to cut 25% or 25 basis points, and we know that, right? I know the White House is getting really strong, strong arming the Fed. You can't strong arm the Fed. I'm sorry, Mr. President. But he's getting two, not one, but two board seats on the Fed. So when I see that, the swing is going to be a lot more to the move. You're going to see those cuts and probably be in a much easier 25, 25, 25 all the way out. But those are not all baked in. I think a lot of people thought we were going to get a 50 basis point cut. I never thought that. I thought it was already baked in. I think that we just heard the MIAX, the new stock, just opened up here on the floor of the IPOs. Look, that's a big thing right now. IPOs, that means that there's cash in the markets right now. That means there's more people. If I told you the M2, the actual flow of money is at the highest level in history, there is so much cash out there. It's got to go somewhere. It's got to land somewhere. And Warren Buffett, the big cash pile of $380 billion. Look at the cash piles of like C3. I talked about this morning, the AI. $752 million in cash. There's a lot of companies with cash. They may be looking to, hey, shore up that Bitcoin account.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're seeing it. Didn't Peter Thiel's company Bullish it was their IPO yesterday and it like doubled, I think, on the day. Am I remembering that correctly?
That's right. When you had the former CEO of the New York Stock Exchange is now the new CEO of Bullish. Heck yes, and that's exactly right. I think Bullish is even higher today, right? I mean, you're not seeing selling from the inside. You're not seeing those early people selling. You did on the open. Yeah, okay, that's normal. We expect this big rush to the gates, as I always say, but it's going right back up. This healthy IPO market in the stock market is very healthy for crypto, right? Because it's a risky asset. IPOs are risky assets. They're a new company. They don't have long 10Ks and 10Qs going back 30, 40 years, maybe just 3 or 4 years. So that's a very strong market. And those riskier assets make us happy. I love that. So yes, I don't think there's any problem here. Look, I think there's you got to look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and Aave and Chainlink. You're in that bigger picture. So when I'm in those, I'm okay. And you're seeing when you name the last time CNBC and those kind of places were talking about Bitcoin in a positive way, right? 5 years ago, you didn't see that, Hank. 5 years ago, it was negative, negative, negative. Today, it's all positive. Jim Cramer talking about how much he loves Bitcoin. Oh my God. It wasn't a day went by that Jim Cramer didn't say bad things about Bitcoin. And okay, Jim, thanks. You appreciate it. And that was around 9,000 and 10,000, right? Today it's at 118,000, 120,000. We're going to 150,000. So I don't care what the price is today. I just want to buy more.
Yeah, you get me worried though anytime you say Jim Cramer is being bullish on Bitcoin, as we do know the infamous inverse Cramer rule has yet to be disproven. It just seems a little too accurate sometimes, so that's got me worried.
My dear friend Matthew Tuttle from Tuttle Investments, who started the Cramer Inverse ETF, he'll tell you the same thing, man. It was an easy ETF, right? Because of everything he said. But I like Jim. Jim's smart. Jim's been here a long time. He's a good guy. I'll say it on the air. He's a great person. And you know what? We all make mistakes. But when you look at the past, indicative of the future, Bitcoin isn't going anywhere, right? The additional Bitcoin that coming into the market now could be these whales taking a little bit of profit, saying, okay, you know what? I'm adding liquidity to the market. If the whales take all of the liquidity off the market, out of the exchanges, the hot markets, right? Then we don't have any to buy, and that pushes the markets up. So we need whales to back off, put some in the market, let people buy. This is giving everybody an entry point. People love it at 125 and you hate it at 118. That's silly, right? I want to buy when it's low and I want to sell when it's high. And that's what you saw a little bit of this week. And you saw it not once, not twice, but 3 times. You got your opportunities. You're probably going to get some more all the way through. And yes, there's going to be volatility. I love volatility. As traders, we should love volatility. But I also tell people, it's one of my rules, trade what you know. If you don't understand some of these meme coins, don't trade it, but learn about it. Understand the back. Do all of those things. So when you do understand those things, you don't understand, right? I had a friend of mine say, Steve, what should I buy? But don't say Bitcoin. I don't know what to tell you. Buy Bitcoin, right? He bought Bitcoin 112,000. He's still happy. He didn't even care that it went to 18 today, right? So, that's the kind of feeling you need to have. And listen, down here on the floor, they do love crypto. They do love Bitcoin. They're just hesitant. It's old school. It's not gold. It's not something they put in their hands. They don't really understand it sometimes. But the education is happening very fast. And that you got to love. You got to give them some props for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And something you mentioned earlier, if we do see reports of Fed rate cuts, that usually signals money moving toward risk-on assets, which right now includes Bitcoin. But I'm always curious,
sometimes.
We call Bitcoin digital gold, right? The store of value, which would kind of seemingly be at odds with the narrative of it being a quote unquote risk on asset. At what point do we stop referring to Bitcoin as a risk on asset and more as a store of value as it was intended? Is there like an inflection point for that? Because when we go back and you look at the whole timeline, Bitcoin always goes up. So how risky is it really?
That's very simple. I mean, we have to educate them, right? That it's not just Bitcoin being digital gold, but it's the next level of how we will be transacting in the future, right? And do you want to, there's a reason why those gold miners went out to California. They didn't know the price of gold was going to be $4,000 an ounce in the future. They thought that, but they didn't know when, right? Back then, it was like $1 an ounce. That was a huge amount of money back then. And they ran out and bought trying to mine as much gold as they could, right? Do it now.
Yeah.
But your kids happy to do.
Okay, we got you there. So I guess it's really one of those things where it's early adopters who are brave enough to move on the new frontier are going to be the ones getting the glory. But what would you say to people who are still apprehensive toward making that leap right now? Should they be dipping their toes in the water with a little bit? What would be the plan you would subscribe to them to kind of get acclimated to this space so they could feel more confident going forward with what is still a relatively new asset class?
That's a very good question. And look, you just need to dip your toe in by paying $100, $200. You got an extra bit of money? Don't go to the movies. Go buy Bitcoin. Don't go to McDonald's or Starbucks, your $20 latte. Go buy Bitcoin, right? Go pile it away. And when you do this once a week and do it religiously, as I always say, if you do that every week or every other day or whatever you set your goal to be, you'll be going like, wow, all of a sudden I've got extra money in here. How'd that happen? Well, the price went up and you've been religiously putting money in. So I like that.
Yeah, it makes me wonder. I remember when Robinhood came out during COVID, and there was they had that fun gimmick where if you get Robinhood and recommend it to someone else, you'd get a free stock, right? And it just was such a great play that got so many more people in the space, which was a lot, I think, to account for those all-time highs. Are you surprised Robinhood or another platform hasn't created maybe a similar gimmick where they give you a small amount of Bitcoin so you could compare that to everything else in your portfolio to kind of start orange pilling people slowly? Like, it seems like a really easy opportunity there.
I would highly suggest that we don't do that. I don't like, when you have regulations coming in. I'm not a big fan of gamification of crypto, right? The asset class itself should be able to stand on its own without having to make it some toy or make it where it feels like it's something that's really not. We need to explain to people what it really is. It's going to be a way of disseminating cash back and forth, right? It's a way that we're going to be able to exchange goods. And in the old days, it was bartering, but in the new days, it was swiping a credit card or paying with cash. Those are going to be out the door too. This is the next generation. They need to understand that. I mean, it took 30 years from the diner club card to Visa and MasterCard to be widely accepted, right? I mean, you couldn't believe it, but there were times when credit cards weren't even accepted. They were hated, right? Same thing here. But when that flip of the switch happens, it won't be 118. It'll be $500,000 of Bitcoin. It'll be $1 million of Bitcoin in fiat. And then at that point, we won't even think about it in fiat. It'll be thought of as Satoshis at 21 million.
And you mentioned the Diners Club card, which is interesting because if you look back, if you look at checks, you look at credit cards, it seems to be about a 15 to 20 year window for that adoption cycle to kind of come into fruition here. Do you feel like Bitcoin is on that same pace right now?
No, it's way faster. The speed of adoption is absolutely, it's like it's like a rocket ship right now. That's great, right? We are, if you ask these companies out there that are building on their layer ones and layer twos, they don't even care what the price is. They are going as fast as they can and building as fast as they can and trying to be the first to whatever that it is they're building, whether that's building the Web3 like we are or building on the next generation of fintech. Listen, they are not stopping building just because the price is around and the volatility moves around, right? We didn't stop. It'd be like saying, why did Apple stop making iPhones or Samsung making phones? Because the price may go up or down. They didn't care, right? So it's the same thing, right? We don't care. The price is going to go up. It's going to go from left to right on the charts, and that's all I care about right now. Now, is there a chance of it having to crash? No, because the difference is now is that TradeFi actually is in the market. You have the ETFs. There is money in the back end now that people are looking to buy into it, and it makes it let's say. When I hear people going, well, how do I buy it without going onto Kraken or Gemini or Coinbase? Okay, there are ETFs out there like iBit, right? It'll make it a lot easier. You're not going to own it. You're not going to own the Bitcoin. You're not going to own the crypto. So if you want to do that, you got to buy the actual exchanges themselves. I think there's going to be an adoption of crypto exchanges way more, like Fidelity and E-Trade, and they're going to really start to adopt it. If you don't, you're going to die. I'm just going to say it right now, if you don't adopt the crypto side of things, you're not going to, I heard it all the time, that's just nonsense, Steve. It's really not. It's really not. Look at the banks that didn't accept crypto in the beginning. They're hurting right now. I said this on the show last time. Wells Fargo had to borrow $250 billion to stay afloat. They're one of the last few to allow crypto. You better, banks and normal TradeFi better allow crypto.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it with JP Morgan Chase. Jamie Dimon, who has been a very anti-Bitcoin and crypto for a long time, is now saying that they will start servicing crypto because their customers are demanding it. So it certainly seems like these big institutions are going to acquiesce to the want of their customers who want Bitcoin until they are full on going to be embracing it. And that seems like we are right on that timeline. And you've talked a number of times on the show today specifically about the educational aspect. I'd be curious, aside from providing everyone out there the most information possible to make smart and informed trades on your platform, Quasar Markets, are you doing anything else to help educate the masses out there so that they can also help themselves and their financial futures and embrace Bitcoin the way that you and I and so many others are?
Yeah, that's a great question. Two parts there. Jamie Dimon 3 years ago said our customers are talking about it. They're asking about it. You just hit the nail on the head. They are now demanding it. That's a complete change. And yes, most definitely. I'll tell you the best part about Quasar Markets for the crypto side is we have Howard Greenberg, who's been on your show too, the president of American Blockchain and Cryptocurrency Association, who is out there educating people about how to buy, how to invest, how to create, how to see those layer ones and layer twos and what needs to happen and get rid of the coins that really have no utility, focusing on better investments and not looking at things going, oh, I can't wait because I can't wait to FOMO this color coin. It's not about that. It's about how we're going to interchange in the future. And with Quasar Markets, we also have all the crypto data. We partner with Binance. We've already partnered with Robinhood Crypto. We've already been the partners with those. So if you have an account with those, you'll be able to trade right on our platform and see all the data. Google Trends, you'll be able to see, we have an AI wrapped around crypto, so you understand what's going on in the crypto world. So we have built a platform with TradeFi and in the DeFi world together.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. There's a platform in every language. I love it.
Oh, absolutely. And as the man who truly has his ear to the ground and brings all the big beats to the people, is there anything you're specifically looking forward to and excited about coming down the pipe in terms of Bitcoin adoption going further that maybe we're not paying enough attention to right now?
Yes, I think there's one big one. I think that everybody needs to pay attention when it comes to Bitcoin, and we've seen the adoption now from the institutional side that I said I'm not so sure yet, but it will happen because they did it before the thing that we need to see we're not paying enough attention to, and that's the regulations. Regulations around Bitcoin are very important. And when I heard of this at the beginning, that we want this to be the wild, wild west, I don't want this to be the wild, wild west. It's going to be an actual thing that we're going to use around the world. Now, I think it's very arrogant of the United States to think that we're going to lead in this because this is a worldwide product. This isn't just a US-centric product. It's the whole world, right? So I want to see regulations, not just in the United States, being fixed. And I think we're doing a good job with that. Cynthia Lummis, the senator, as well as John Thune, Senate Majority Leader, will be coming out with some great bills, and they're going to bring it to the floor here in the fall session. I'm excited to see those in fruition. I've got lots of my people there that are working with them on helping them accumulate those bills. But it's also seeing that in Japan and China, and China will come back to the table. Don't worry. It's all the other countries that are a big part of the world, right, economy. That how are they also going to actually set it? And I think we need to. And I think the president's right on this. If we're going to lead, and we're going to try to lead in crypto, we need to lead in regulation. So let's set good bills that the world can follow. Not that we have to follow them, but that we set the precedents for our leadership with those bills. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think once those guardrails are put in place, it's just going to add so much more confidence to the narrative around the entire market, the Bitcoin, ecosystem as a whole. That's when I think things are really going to start to take off. It's like we're laying the tracks for this intercontinental railroad, and things are really going to start chugging along on the Bitcoin train once we have those things in place. So I totally agree with you. Very excited about that. All right, so I know you got a busy day ahead of you, Big Beat. Before we let you go, any final thoughts on the Bitcoin price action today? We reached all-time highs. We've seen a bit of a pullback. What are the numbers that you think we should be looking for next, or where Bitcoin might make its next move? Again, no financial advice, just your opinion on the market.
This is very simple. I don't care. just keep buying, right? I mean, yeah, just there are technical analysis that I've laid over, and I've laid that out for several people. I do like this breakdown a little bit. I bought this morning. I'll be buying some more this afternoon. I feel like that this little bit left here is people getting nervous. The FOMO is done. The drops are done. Will we continue to fall a little bit more? Yes, but I'm not worried about it. Yes, is inflation still out there? Is it in check? No, it's fine. I don't care because there's only what, Hank? 21 million of them, and we're at 117,000. You do the division. It's not hard to understand that. Big shout out to NYSE TV for having us here too as well.
Amazing. Well, Stephen, as always, we appreciate your time, and you got the biggest beats in the business, and we certainly appreciate you sharing with them, and we can't wait to have you back really soon. Enjoy your time on the floor, and we'll hopefully see you next week.
See you then, Hank.
Thanks, Stephen. Cheers. All right, we're going to go to break. When we're back, we got more of today's top news coming up, so stay put. Blockchain report coming back right after this. All right, we're back with this morning's bull run, and as always, a big thanks to our main man, the big beat himself, Stephen Orr, for joining us and giving us the lowdown as to everything that is going on in the market. He's the best, so we certainly love having him on. But let's get back to today's top stories. H100 Group AB is apparently trying to speed run their Bitcoin accumulation as they just picked up another 45.8 BTC, because when you're already holding hundreds, what's another 45? This latest haul came part of their ongoing Bitcoin treasury strategy. They funded it using proceeds from convertible loan agreements, which is basically finance speak for we borrowed money to buy the good money. Now, after this buy, H100 stash now sits at roughly 809 Bitcoin. For context, that's more than some small countries have in gold reserves, except gold doesn't move 10% in a day or 300% in a cycle. They paid an average price of around, was at 1,136,949 SEK per Bitcoin for a total tab of about over 52 million SEK. And before you think that's some casual one-off buy, this milestone comes only weeks after H100 became the largest publicly listed Bitcoin treasury holder in the entire Nordic region. The largest, and they've done it in a way that makes most corporate balance sheets look like they're still standing still. In early June of 2025, they had only 6.2 Bitcoin. Now, just over 2 months later, they've got more than 809. That's an increase of around 13,000%. 13,000% growth in Bitcoin holdings in just over 2 months. Wild. I mean, that's the kind of number that makes your stockholders wonder why you even bother with any other asset. Their Bitcoin push has also earned them a nod from Adam Back himself, the CEO of Blockstream and one of Bitcoin's original builders. Or in other words, if Bitcoin had a Hall of Fame, Adam Back's face would be on the wall, and now H100 is getting the VIP tour. Now, this is what institutional adoption actually looks like here, gang. And given the way they're moving, don't be surprised if the largest in the Nordics turns into the largest in Europe before too long. And Mara Holdings is making its largest push yet into artificial intelligence and high-performance computing. They're buying a 64% stake in Exeon for $168 million. Now, Exeon is a subsidiary of Électricité de France, one of the largest low-carbon energy producers in the world. Mara's agreement includes an option to increase its stake to 75% by 2027. That would require an additional $127 million contingent on performance milestones. Now, Exeon develops high-performance computing data centers. It provides AI and cloud infrastructure, and partners include NVIDIA and Deloitte. Not bad company. Mara says the deal positions Exeon to expand internationally and serve enterprise and public sector clients. The transaction is expected to close in Q4 pending approvals, and CEO Fred Thiel says combining Mara and Exeon's expertise will deliver secure and scalable cloud solutions for the future of AI. The AI expansion comes as Bitcoin's mining difficulty has been rising sharply. Higher difficulty means higher energy consumption and more pressure on mining profitability. Mara is the largest Bitcoin miner by production, network hash rate, and market cap. They have been one of the last major miners to make a significant move into AI. Thiel said they chose not to be in the first wave of AI expansion. Instead of retrofitting mining facilities, Mara is investing in a partner with existing expertise, customers, and a track record. In July, Mara mined 703 Bitcoin, fewer than competitor Iron's record 728. Now, the drop was likely due to fewer active mining machines, but despite that, Mara's Q2 revenue rose 64% year over year to $238 million. They still hold 50,000 Bitcoin worth nearly $6 billion, and that makes them the second largest corporate Bitcoin holder after Michael Saylor's strategy, of course. And with this deal, Mara is positioning itself not just as a mining giant, but as a heavyweight in the AI and HPC arena. Because in 2025, even Bitcoin miners want to mine everything. And really, who can blame them? And speaking of Thiel's, Peter Thiel, billionaire investor, Palantir co-founder, and occasional
You are fake news.
Is now hey, it's true, is adding, launched a crypto exchange that doubled on day one to his LinkedIn profile. Sounds nice. Bullish, his backed exchange, hit the New York Stock Exchange Wednesday and immediately popped more than 150%. They already raised $1.11 billion before going public, pricing 30 million shares at $37 a piece. By the close, they were at $75.30 after hitting an intraday high of $109.90. That's a market cap of roughly $9.94 billion for those keeping score at home. That's unicorn status with a whole herd of baby unicorns just trailing on behind them. This is one of the rare U.S. listings for a crypto exchange, and it's not their first rodeo either. They launched in 2020, tried to go public via SPAC in 2022, pulled the plug, regrouped, and came back swinging. Their roller coaster of backers reads like a who's who of finance meets crypto. We're talking Peter Thiel's Founders Fund, Nomura, Galaxy Digital. At the helm is Tom Fairley, former president of the New York Stock Exchange, a man who probably knows every single VIP bathroom in that entire building. Yeah. After the listing, Fairley becomes chairman, bringing with him deep market structure expertise and credibility with institutional clients, exactly the type of bullish is targeting. Now, the strategy here, well, win over the institutions, ride the wave of regulatory clarity, and grow crypto holdings under management. Oh, and they're planning to take the IPO cash and turn it into stablecoins, by the way. Because in their world, fiat is basically a melting ice cube and stablecoins are the Tupperware. The timing of this debut is no accident. Bitcoin hit a new all-time high of over 124K later that same day. ETF inflows are surging, corporate treasuries are buying, and the current White House is more pro-crypto than any before it. Circle saw a 500% post-listing pop earlier this year. Now others, we're talking Gemini, Grayscale, Figure Technology, BitGo, are lining up for their turn. It's part of a bigger trend here, gang. Publicly traded companies positioning themselves as crypto accumulation machines. Strategy pioneered it with Bitcoin. Japan's Metaplanet followed suit. Now, even smaller players like BitMine and SharpLink are doing it with Ethereum, mostly to stake because ETH's utility makes that viable. Bullish hasn't announced a Bitcoin buy yet, but let's be honest, with Thiel, Fairley, and nearly $10 billion in market cap now at their disposal, it's only a matter of time before they realize the name Bullish feels a lot more authentic with some BTC on the balance sheet. And Bitcoin Treasuries, the site that tracks which companies have the good sense to hoard Bitcoin, just signed Preston Pysh as their new strategic advisor. Pysh isn't new to this. He's been preaching Bitcoin since 2017, back when most serious investors were still calling it magic internet money from their Bloomberg terminals. He's the host of We Study Billionaires, the world's biggest stock investing podcast with over 180 million downloads, which basically makes him the Morgan Freeman of Bitcoin education. You hear his voice and suddenly it just all makes sense. Now he's bringing that firepower to Bitcoin Treasuries, a platform that maintains the top data set on public companies holding BTC, tracks who's been trying to catch strategy, and keeps score of the corporate FOMO leaderboard. Can we actually bring that up here, guys? Do we have it? We have it up. Let's take a look. Yeah, let's bring up Bitcoin treasuries here. So if you might know, if you watch the show, this is one of our personal favorite websites on the entire interweb, so you can keep track of what public companies are doing with their Bitcoin. So right now we have the big 100 public Bitcoin treasury company leaderboard. Of course, we have Strategy at the top. We have Mara, who we just talked about a second ago. They're at number 2. So let's just give an example here. If we were to go click on Strategy at number 1, can we click on that, guys? That will bring us to Strategy's main individual page where it gives us the breakdown and all the information you would want to know about Strategy's Bitcoin holdings. So right now, their Bitcoin balance, almost 629,000, worth over 74 billion bucks. Their average cost, remember Michael Saylor's been doing this since 2020, so they got in pretty early. It's right above $73,000 per Bitcoin. So needless to say, I think they're doing okay. You can see if you go below here, their stock and financials and how that relates to their Bitcoin buys. So their share price currently is around $367. Their full market cap is $104 billion. So literally $74 billion of that is made up by their BTC holdings. We have their MNAV multiple, and yeah, you can see their Bitcoin market cap. Bitcoin makes up over 71% of all of Strategy's market cap due to their aggressive Bitcoin buying that we've seen over the last 5 years. So if you're looking to see what your favorite public companies are doing with their Bitcoin treasuries, bitcointreasury.net is 100% the place to go. Let's hit back to camera 1, por favor. Now, CEO Pete Rizzo says that Pish's foresight and commitment to the Bitcoin ethos are exactly what the platform itself needs. Pish is also a general partner at Ego Death Capital, which is a Bitcoin venture fund, not an emo band, make a great name though, and they advise startups like Primal and Debify. Now, in his own words, transparent data is essential for adoption, and I am excited to support a trusted platform that is helping decision makers globally understand how to create winning Bitcoin strategies. Or in other words, CEOs, get ready for a whole new wave of why aren't we holding Bitcoin too? PowerPoint slides in your boardroom, right? We're looking forward to it. And again, bitcointreasuries.net, best place on the web to check out that type of info. Oh, this is a fun one. Scottie Pippen, he's back in the news, the 6-time NBA champion, Hall of Famer, Chicago Bulls legend, and now apparently he moonlights as a part-time Bitcoin prophet. Tell me more. Well, he says that Michael Saylor recently told him that he needs to cool it on all of his Satoshi talk. Because according to Pippen, Saylor pulled him aside and said, no more talk about Satoshi, okay? This was after Pippen publicly claimed he's been speaking with none other than Satoshi Nakamoto in his dreams. Yeah, that's weird. Either way, this is not like in a Satoshi emailed me from the grave kind of way. He is seeing him in his dreams. All right, crickets, we've had enough of you here. Now, Satoshi showed up apparently in one of Scottie's REM cycles with some pretty fun Bitcoin price predictions. Pippen even says their first meeting was in real life in 1993, which would be 15 years before Bitcoin even existed. The details are a little fuzzy, but since then, Dream Satoshi apparently pops in now and then to drop price targets like some kind of subconscious plan B. Saylor's reaction when Pippen brought this up during a conference panel last year just said, I envy Scottie, and he must mean it because soon after, Saylor had Pippen over for a dinner on his yacht, where they apparently spent the night geeking out over Bitcoin like two guys debating Jordan versus LeBron, but for sound money. Saylor later defended him, saying Bitcoiners are protective of Satoshi, but hey, if Scottie's got a relationship with him, maybe that's constructive. And to be fair, some of Dream Satoshi's calls have been oddly close. In September of last year, when Bitcoin was around 57K, Pippen posted on X that Satoshi predicted 84,650 priced Bitcoin by US election day. Now, it didn't hit that day, but it did 2 weeks later. 9.7 million views later, people started watching Pippen's predictions. In December, he dropped a weird basketball-coded forecast saying Bitcoin will go closer to Black Mamba numbers before it goes back to Chamberlain. So to translate that for you, Kobe Bryant's 81 points before Wilt Chamberlain's 100 points, meaning 81K before 100K. Bitcoin just hit 100K for the first time that month, so naturally it fell back. And yes, it eventually hit 81K the following April. Not perfect, but more accurate than a lot of YouTube technical analysis guys. In July, Pippin asked if Bitcoin could hit $233,000 in 2026, along with Solana hitting 1,000 and XRP hitting $10. Asked for his 2025 prediction, he said he'd have to get more sleep so Satoshi could tell him. Now, Pippin's not your typical crypto influencer. 17 NBA seasons, 6 NBA championships, 7 All-Star appearances, an All-Star MVP, Hall of Fame induction from Michael Jordan himself, and now a crypto project called the Ball Foundation, built around the actual basketball he was holding when the Bulls won their first championship in 1991. One ball backed on the blockchain, token ticker BALL. Market cap, $2 million. Supply, 1 billion tokens. The physical ball is locked up as a real-world asset because apparently NFTs were just too subtle. Pippin says it's about legacy in basketball and in crypto, and about introducing people to the space without launching some celebrity rug pull meme coin. And he is dead serious about that. I've got a great team. I believe in what we're doing, he says. Pippin's goal now? To one day shake hands with pro-Bitcoin President Donald Trump before the term is up. So here we are, gang. Scottie Pippen is working with Michael Saylor, guided by Dream State Satoshi, and building a basketball-backed crypto token. And somehow that still sounds less crazy than Dogecoin's market cap. So here we are. We're taking a break, but more blockchain report when we come back right after this.
It runs on Bitcoin. Introducing Roxom, the first ever exchange where Bitcoiners can trade treasury stocks entirely in BTC. Get exposure to top Bitcoin holding companies like MicroStrategy and Metaplanet, priced in Bitcoin from the start. No fiat, no middlemen. This is what financial freedom looks like. Early access now live at Roxom.com/treasuries. Built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners.
All right, we're back to wrap things up today with a little bullish, bearish, or BS. This is the part of the show where we recap today's top stories and determine whether it's looking good, bad, or like a whole bunch of bull for Bitcoin. It's been a wild one, so let's get back into it with today's recaps. First, Bitcoin broke through a shiny new all-time high of 124K and then immediately face-planted back to 118K in under 24 hours. Wasn't a big fan of it either. I understand the booze. The move came on a cocktail of the Fed might actually cut rates, massive institutional inflows, and Donald Trump basically cosplaying as the crypto president. I got to feel bullish on this. New all-time highs. I mean, yeah, it's down from those, but ATH pullbacks are Bitcoin's version of stretching before a marathon, don't you know? With policy tailwinds, ETF demand, and macro support, the 118K zone could be the launch pad for that 130 to 150K price action, so we'll be keeping our eyes on that. All-time high pullbacks are just Bitcoin's way of kind of doing yoga before they start the real race, so I am bullish on that one. Next up, we got Steak and Shake says in-store sales jumped nearly 11% after they started taking BTC across multiple countries. Meanwhile, McDonald's is over there watching customers defect like it's the McRib off season. They're already talking Lightning Network payments, which means you could get your double steak burger before the transaction even confirms. I mean, I'm bullish on this. It feels like a bit of a marketing gimmick, right? But this type of marketing does help spread the Bitcoin gospel. I mean, it won't moon the price tomorrow, but every I paid for this in BTC moment slowly kills the magic internet money narrative and pushes Bitcoin further into the national and international limelight. Burger joint stacking sats is good for everyone, except for my main man Ronald, so sorry McDonald's, but I'm bullish. Last up, we got 2 bullish, 0 bearish, 0 BS. Can we get the clean sweep? Someone asked ChatGPT-5 where Bitcoin's price will be on New Year's Eve of this year. ChatGPT, which again is the best one yet allegedly, set 175K with a base case of 140 to 200K, a bullish case of 200 to 250K, and a super bullish case north of 250K. I mean, I know it's just AI taking all the information it can and putting together a prediction, but what's not to be bullish about that, right? AI doesn't exactly move markets yet, but it definitely moves headlines, and retail often reads those headlines. If people believe the robot oracle FOMO could do the rest, we could be in for some very exciting price action as we go through the end of Q3 toward Q4 of this year. I mean, if the AI says buy, people are often going to listen and then YOLO in right after. So today's score, we got 3 bullish, 0 bearish, and 0 BS, which means today's diagnosis is full-on bullish, which means I'm bringing out the money gun. All-time high momentum, burger-based optimism, and AI hype are all lining up. Short-term dips, sure, it's happening, but the setup still screams massive upside going forward. As always, boys and girls, thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Blockchain Report. We had some technical difficulties today, but hey, it's a live show, it happens, and guess what? We'll promise to do better next time. As always, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to RoxomTV and yours truly at Hank@RoxomTV on all platforms that matter. And I will see you boys and girls tomorrow, same time, same place, same crypto chaos and Bitcoin bedlam right here on RoxomTV. Until then, sayonara. See you tomorrow.